name's Kyle Katinsky. You may remember me from some of my projects on soil. I used the shaky jaw test several times with much success. Now we're here on this property to remediate the water. And as you can see, we need some remediation. Now what do we have here? That's quite a bit of standing water that I see. Now what could we do to change this up? Maybe a little bit of permeability. Now a retention basin like this one here really bums a man out. When you see all of this space that plants could be, vital remediate. Hey there! Once again, we're looking at this here retention pond. And look at all this barren gravel. You gotta say to yourself, hey, that ain't natural. You know they be spraying some herbicide down on here. Look at this. All that mess. Litter, tree debris. Now, if somebody was checking this from time to time, we wouldn't have to worry about that now, would we? Mighty steep hillside I got behind me, huh? Now, if we took a terrace effect, did some stepping, planted a few plants, that could slow the water down, keep it from washing all of that fertilizer off of the grass and into this here retention. My, what do we have here? If it's not Cleveland's own shit-ass pear. And look at this, with the mulch just volcanoed up around it, you know that's a recipe for failure. Now, obviously, we have a whole heap of howdy-hoo of work cut out for us if we want to keep this wastewater from ending up in our creeks, streams, and rivers. Let's see what some of them young science folks at Tri-Seed have to say about that,
A study and deep dive into irrigation and stormwater issues and how they can be improved by using the information we have learned in Dr. Jimbo's irrigation and drainage class PST 1600.
Above is a list of some of the things that we will be discussing today.
Hi, I'm Carrie Stead. I will be discussing green roofs, and I am the PR specialist.
I'm Caleb Couts, and I'll be discussing permeable pavement and silvacells.
I'm Kira Osko, and I will discuss irrigation and infiltration.
My name's Kyle Katinsky, and I'm going to discuss retention ponds and phytoremediation.
Currently, this site can only contain 3/4 of the rainfall that happens on it. The rooftop has about 30,000 square feet of impervious impervious surface. The walking path has over 8,000. The impervious pavement of the parking lot is over 100,000, and totally you have 150,000 square feet of impervious pavement. Water that passes through the property leaves through the retention basin directly into our stormwater systems.
PR. So promoting awareness on this environmentally green initiative is our goal. Here are ways we can get the word out. By contacting the local news outlets and letting them follow us along this entire process. We also want to create social media pages, sharing progress photos, and hosting an open house and giving tours when it's all completed. We will be contacting the EPA and getting the proper certifications, along with contacting the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District and applying for a runoff fee reduction. Lastly, and most importantly, we will be contacting our neighbors at the Tri-Seed Plant Science group and having them host classes on our property promoting education and care and maintenance of our systems.
Currently, the turf grass management plan of this site shows grass that's uncared for. There's over 100,000 square feet of lawn, and that's a lot of input. There's mowing that has to be done, and that needs to be done at least 28 times per season. The irrigation input can show that there's under irrigation or over irrigation. Over irrigation causes just as much issues. The fertilizing is also another input that needs to happen. You can't under fertilize, you can't over fertilize. But fertilizing is a growing season for life input for your lawn. It creates heavy traffic that can cause other issues with your lawn that you need to do aeration to improve. The aeration can leave ugly things behind, but this is something that needs to happen twice a year, and other inputs can also be needed, such as herbicides and fertilizer, but these all cost money. Money to keep your lawn looking nice. If you don't want to spend that much money, you can try putting in garden beds or putting in something that's going to help with your irrigation and drainage issues.
A future plan that we have is to create a green roof. There's 4 different types of green roofs, going from extensive to biodiverse. Extensive being very low maintenance, easy care, not very beneficial. Semi-intensive, a little bit more plants, a little bit of maintenance. Intensive being a lot of maintenance, but very beautiful can be. Lots of diverse species, really the sky's the limit. And biodiverse, which is the most environmentally friendly, using recycled materials and planting natives to help our pollinators. So benefits of keeping green roofs are keeping the heat in the summer, winter, and cool in the summer, reducing noise pollution for inside the building, along with filtering air pollutants and filtering out nitrates to improve the runoff that happens if we don't absorb all the water. It can be used as a way to restore native species and helping mitigate the urban heat island effect. The green roofs can retain 50 to 90% of storm water. So in preparation for getting our green roof, we have to make sure that we have a load capacity understanding if we can handle all of this stuff. We have to consider windbreaks for our plants and people, and we have to install a cistern to get all the excess drainage that cannot be held in the system and reused for irrigation in times of drought. So the future green roof plan, combining the intensive with the biodiverse, where employees can escape the stresses of daily life and take a break in a true oasis, and an environmentally friendly way of retaining stormwater and reusing it for irrigation, preventing it from running off into the city's storm sewers.
Okay, let's talk about permeable pavement. So currently the parking lot is just impervious asphalt, not very good. So these pictures illustrate what permeable pavement could look like. We can get rid of that, and it will help take excess stormwater. It'll keep stormwater out of our already busy stormwater system. So how does it work? So water is going to infiltrate through permeable pavement on the surface, through cracks, through openings in the pavement, and infiltrate into the native soil. And then this kind of is a diagram of what it could look like. There's going to be a drainage pipe to let excess water escape. In the event that water is coming into the system at a faster rate than it can absorb into the native soil. So let's talk about the base. The base should be open graded, which means there's no fine materials in the base. This means there's bigger pore spaces that allows water to seep through. If we used fine material, it would close up the pore space, which is obviously not what we want in this situation. And then you can get into fabric, geotextile fabric. There's 2 types of fabric. There's woven versus non-woven fabric. Woven fabric will not let water through as easily as non-woven fabric. And what fabric you use will just be dependent on what type of soil you're working with and how you want that water to flow, if you want it to flow into the native soil or flow off with the slope of the pavement, sort of. So, okay. Benefits, well, other than aesthetics, it has potentially double the lifespan of a traditional asphalt or concrete pavement when properly installed. And another point is that since water is infiltrating through the pavement, there's less ice buildup, so less need for salt, in turn less runoff, polluting our streams and waterways with salt and the chemicals and oil spills or anything that would be on the pavement. All right, let's talk about silvacells. So silvacells are another great option to retain water underneath pavement on this site. They can be implemented under the current parking lot islands and under the pavement. And they could also be used underneath the proposed green roof that Carrie was talking about. So why use silvacells? Well, they can reduce the amount of water entering the stormwater system, right? And the trees will grow larger because of the silvacells. Large trees contribute to more carbon sequestration, helping climate change. So I want to point out that there's a lot more benefits of using silvacells other than just reducing the amount of stormwater in our system. They can help with climate change. They'll contribute to a longer tree life, a bigger tree, which also could be linked to reducing utility bills like AC bills that'll keep houses cooler, parking lots cooler. In turn, if you park your car under a tree and you get in to your car in a 90-degree summer day, it might not be as hot because the silvacell will allow that tree to grow larger and produce more shade. And also these trees, since they're going to be able to grow larger, will take up more water, in turn not having as much water in our stormwater system.
All right, I'm going to talk about improving the quality of the infiltration water. So one of the things you can do is terracing with your rain gardens and your swales. So rain gardens are depressions for surface water or water from downspouts that open. They can be put in open or tight spaces used with hardy species for periods of wet or dry soils, and the overflow can leach into the systems and or pop-up emitters in the next appropriate rain garden or swale. Swales are collections. Swales are areas where water can collect and be conveyed to other rain gardens or to other parts of the property. And we can use them to interlink our rain gardens and eventually lead to the bioretention basin. Technology that we can also implement are going to be zone controllers for our system, the apps that run data collection for the weather stations, soil moisture, humidity monitors, rain sensors. We can make sure we plant plants by zone. We can have timer adjustments and a failure alarm all going straight to your phone.
Hello, my name's Kyle Katinsky, and I'm going to be talking to you about the retention basin. You see here, this is what a retention basin does. It takes the water in, slows it down, gives it enough time for some of that sediment to drop on out and collect at the bottom of the retention basin. Occasionally, you're going to need to dredge all that goopy mess out. But for right now, it seems to be working fine. Let's see if there are any more changes we can make to this to make it more efficient for us, the working class man. You see here, as I said, mechanically sound, but leaves a lot to the mind to desire. First thing that I noticed on this site is this here hillside. Just letting all that fertilizer, pesticide, herbicide roll on down into that retention basin, fill it up with all sorts of nastiness that we don't want. Some of the solutions that we could use are terraces that could slow the water down. It'll actually make a nice little stepping effect. I think we discussed that earlier. And it'll keep some of that water in place, and it'll be used by the plants in the landscape. The next thing that we noticed was this ring of death around the pond. We don't like that, do we? It's very ugly. What can we do to change it? Well, that's when I want to talk to you about phytoremediation. Now, what in the Sam Hill is phytoremeding-ding-dong anyway? Well, phytoremediation is the uptake of heavy metals, excess nutrients, chemicals, and even petroleum products in plants. But there's not just one type, you see. We have phytoextraction, and that's the absorption of heavy metals by the roots of the plants, which are then stored in inactive parts of the plants, such as the cell membrane and wall. Phytostabilization is the attraction of contaminants to the roots, which then hold on tightly to those contaminants, limiting their bioavailability and mobility, reducing the contaminant's toxic effect. Then we have rhizofiltration, very similar to phytostabilization, but this is more for our water plants. And that's going to take some of those chemicals out of the water and hold them in our, lily pads, cattails, and so forth. Phytovolatilization is the ability of the plant to take contaminants out of the soil and turn them into a gas that is released from its leaves, reducing its potency. Phytodegenerated, sorry about that. Sometimes this old mind of mine just loses track of what it's doing. Phytodegradation, that's what I'm looking for, is the absorption of toxins by the plant's roots, which are then metabolized by enzymes into less toxic substances. So, what's the solution? More plants, you dum-dum! What are you thinking? We gotta put some of those more plants in there to phytoremediate that water. Go on to the next one. This is a side-by-side of what this here pond looks like now. Barren, desolate, sad. And this is what it could be. A happy little neighborhood for some friendly ducks. So one of the things that I wasn't positive about was, do we have a fountain at this pond or not? I saw a mass in the middle of the pond, but it wasn't turned on. If there isn't one, I'd like to add a fountain. That'll give us some aeration, put some oxygenated water into that system, and help break down organic material. Another thing is, as that water is cycling through that fountain, it's gonna bring that algae deep down into the pond and starve it of sunlight, keeping those blooms from going all crazy. You know what I'm saying. Go on, bring me the next one. See here, one of the last things that we gotta do is a biannual inspection and maintenance call. So why do we gotta do that? Well, sometimes those ponds, they fill up with trash, material, and all sorts of mess. We might have to dredge it out. We might have to clear the overflow. But one thing's for certain, you gotta check it. What are we looking for? Well, over here, you see, we got a checklist. We got sediment that's accumulated, trash and debris, water quality, inlets of poor structural condition. That concrete starts degrading over time, you see. Now then, how do we keep track of all this stuff? Well, I would like to come out here twice a year. Just make sure that everything's working as it should be. And if it is, then we won't have to do much. Maybe just a little bit of picking up that trash. But occasionally, you might notice some things. We might have to dredge all that mucky mess out of the bottom, get it working good. We might also have to, repair some piping. Or if there's erosion, we might have to do something about that. And in those situations, we better come up with a plan first. We gotta find out, Who do we need to talk to? What equipment are we going to need? How many employees are we going to need on this site? And also, safety is a big concern of mine. So how do we keep this place safe for the average working man or person in this case? Well, that was my little spiel on this. I certainly do appreciate you giving this old Louisiana Gator man the time of day. And I do hope you learned something from this here portion of our report now. You go on and have yourself a blessed day.